The forest was not supposed to exist. At least, not on any chart Marcus Hale had studied. He had spent 6 months on Verdunth 9, a quiet exoplanet leased jointly to human research colonies and a handful of neutral alien powers. The official surveys described it as mineral-rich, biologically sparse, and largely unremarkable. Good for mining. Boring for everything else. Which was why Marcus had volunteered. As a xenobotanist, boredom usually meant stability. No aggressive megafauna, no toxic spores dissolving your lungs, no sentient vines attempting philosophical debate while strangling you. He preferred quiet worlds. But on his routine perimeter scan that morning, the ground began to change. The orderly brush thinned, the soil darkened, and trees emerged, old ones. Massive trunks twisted together like interlocked fingers, their bark etched with faint, natural luminescence. Leaves filtered the sunlight into soft emerald hues. The air grew cooler, richer, alive. Marcus stopped walking. "This isn't on any map," he muttered into his recorder. Verdunth 9 was not supposed to have old-growth forests. Terraforming logs showed no such biomes introduced. And yet here it was, thriving, hidden behind a natural ridge as if the planet itself had decided to keep a secret. Then he heard the sound. A sharp intake of breath. Soft. Controlled. Close. Marcus froze, hand instinctively moving toward the stun baton at his belt. "Hello," he called carefully. "I'm not armed for combat." The underbrush rustled. Something, or someone, stepped into the clearing. He was not human. That much was immediately obvious. She stood a little taller than Marcus, slender but strong, her posture regal even in exhaustion. Her skin shimmered faintly like moonlight on water, marked with intricate patterns that glowed dimly along her arms and neck. Long silver-white hair fell loose around her shoulders, tangled with leaves and dirt. She wore no armor, only a torn ceremonial garment that looked far too elegant for a forest floor. And her eyes were the color of deep space, vast and impossibly old. She staggered, one hand bracing against a tree. Marcus dropped the baton. Hey, easy," he said, stepping forward slowly. "You're hurt." Her gaze snapped to him, sharp and wary. Her hand lifted, not in attack but in reflex. "Do not come closer," she said, her voice melodic but weak. "If you are one of them, finish it quickly." "I don't know who them is," Marcus replied, palms open, "but I'm definitely not here to finish anything." She studied him, confusion flickering across her features. "You are human." "Yeah," he said. "That obvious?" Her hand trembled as she lowered it. "Then you are not my enemy." Her knees buckled. Marcus caught her just before she hit the ground. She was lighter than he expected. He carried her back to his field shelter, ignoring protocol alarms screaming in his head. Bringing an unidentified alien into a human facility without clearance was a career-ending move. But leaving her to die in the forest wasn't an option. When she awoke hours later, the shelter was dim, warmed by soft lights and humming equipment. Marcus sat nearby, cataloging samples with one eye on her. "You're awake," he said gently. She pushed herself upright, wincing. "Where am I?" "My research outpost," Marcus replied. "You collapsed. You were dehydrated and malnourished. Nothing life-threatening now." She absorbed this silently, then met his eyes. "You chose to help me." Seemed like the right thing to do. Her expression tightened, something like grief crossing her face. "Your kind is known for many things," she said. "Compassion is inconsistently reported." Marcus snorted softly. "That sounds about right." She hesitated, then spoke with quiet formality. "I am Valithra of House Ceralion, firstborn daughter of the Luminari throne." Marcus blinked. "You're royalty." "I was," she corrected. "I am no longer anything." Over the next several days her story unfolded piece by piece. Valithra's people, the Luminari, were an ancient, radiant species whose empire spanned dozens of systems. Their society was built on harmony, light, and rigid tradition. Succession was sacred. The throne passed only to those deemed perfectly aligned, mind, body, and spirit in flawless balance. Vailithra had been next in line. Until she wasn't. "I questioned our laws," she said one night, staring into the shelter's heater glow. "I asked why we refused aid to lesser worlds. Why we valued purity over mercy." Marcus listened quietly. "My advisors called it weakness," she continued. "My mother, the Empress, called it dangerous. Her trial was ceremonial, swift, and merciless. She was stripped of title, declared unaligned, and exiled, not to another world but to Verdunth 9, a planet the Luminari considered spiritually dead. They expected me to fade," Vailithra said softly. "To become nothing." Marcus felt anger coil in his chest. "Instead you survived." "Barely," she admitted. "This forest protected me. I do not know why." Marcus glanced at the glowing leaves outside. "Maybe it recognized something in you." She looked at him, then really looked at him. "You speak as if worlds can choose." "After everything I've seen," he said, "I wouldn't rule it out." As weeks passed, their lives intertwined in quiet, unremarkable ways that felt extraordinary nonetheless. Marcus taught her human survival skills. Vailithra showed him how to listen to the forest, how to sense subtle energy flows, how the trees communicated through light and resonance. The forest was not accidental. It was ancient. A living archive seated long before any empire claimed the stars. It responded to Vailithra because she carried the ability to resonate with it, not through dominance but empathy. "She cast you out because you were different," Marcus said one evening. "Not because you were wrong." Vailithra's voice trembled. "I still dream of the throne. Of what I could have changed." "You still can," Marcus replied. "Just not the way they expected." Trouble came, as it always did, from the sky. Luminari scout vessels entered Verdunth 9's orbit without warning. Officially, they claimed a navigational error. Unofficially, they had come to retrieve, or erase, their exiled princess. Marcus watched the sky burn with descending light and felt fear tighten his chest. "They will kill you," he said bluntly. "Or worse." Vailithra stood tall, her markings blazing brighter than Marcus had ever seen. "They will try." Together they fled deeper into the forest, pursued by drones and energy pulses that scorched the earth behind them. The forest reacted, roots rising, light flaring, pathways shifting to shield them. At the heart of the forest lay a clearing unlike any other. A massive crystalline structure rose from the ground, humming with ancient power. "The seed core," Vailithra whispered. "A world heart." She stepped forward, placing her hands against the crystal. Light surged, rippling through the forest and into the sky. The Luminari ships faltered, their systems overwhelmed by an energy older than their empire. Vailithra turned to Marcus, tears streaming down her luminous cheeks. "If I merge with it, I can protect this world. But I will never leave." Marcus swallowed hard. "And if you don't? They will never stop hunting me." He took her hand. "Then let them see what they cast out." Vailithra hesitated, then smiled. She didn't merge. She commanded. The forest's light formed a projection that reached orbit, broadcasting Vailithra's voice across open channels. "You named me unaligned," she declared. "But I have found alignment beyond your throne. I choose protection over power. Mercy over perfection." The seed core amplified her truth. The Luminari fleet withdrew. Days later, diplomatic channels exploded. The story spread. Of a princess who bonded with a living world. Of a human who stood beside her. Of an empire forced to confront its own fear of change. Vailithra remained on Verdunth 9, not as an exile but as its guardian. Marcus stayed too. They built something new. Not a throne, not an empire, but a sanctuary where worlds could meet without hierarchy or judgment. One evening, as starlight filtered through glowing leaves, Valithra stood beside Marcus at the forest's edge. "I was alone," she said softly, "until a human found me." Marcus smiled. "Funny. I thought I was the one who discovered something extraordinary." She took his hand, her grip warm and steady. "Perhaps," she said, "we discovered each other." And in the heart of a forest that was never supposed to exist, a cast-out princess and a quiet human proved that sometimes, being lost is how new worlds are born.